All right, you're all set.
So this is the August 14th meeting of the Charter Review Committee's Feedback Subcommittee. And just want to make sure that everybody can hear and be heard. Bernie?
Yes, I'm here.
Ken?
Hello.
And let's see, do we have any members of the public?
No, not right now.
Okay. So basically the agenda for this meeting is similar to the last one. It's to continue looking at the feedback that we've gotten and to be thinking about how we can digest it and put it in a format for decision making by the full committee. And so I've sent a few documents. Ken did the categorizing of the last list that we had of the feedback from the web form and the public comments that we talked about last time. And so I've gone ahead and then added the survey information and what we have as far as notes from the listening sessions to the master spreadsheet. So there are tabs for each of those things, and I can pull that up and show you. Actually, before we get to that, Marcus sent minutes from the June 25th meeting, and we should probably consider those. And did you get a chance to? I can share them right now if we want to just sort of scroll through them. But
Yeah, I have not had a chance to read them, but I don't.
Yeah, I'm
it's
scrolling
just-
right now.
yeah, let me pull
And
them up.
of course, I didn't prepare minutes either. So
Let's see, this is them. These are they. So June 25th, we were all here. Update on the forum, review of other charter reports. So this is the one, Ken, where you showed us the Framingham and other
Yep.
messages. There's a community forum update. Talked about transparency. Some of the concerns that were raised. So then, Ken, you had the 8 charter review reports that we looked at. The subcommittee leans toward a table grid format by charter section, an appendix and bibliography of all public and stakeholder comments, possibly organized by article and topic. All materials to be available online for transparency and searchability. Bernie summarized the public comments received to date. We'll continue to update and merge new comments. Talked about our scheduling and that I would prepare the May 27th minutes, which we approved last time. So it looks fairly straightforward. Do we want to approve do we have a motion to approve?
also move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
the minutes are approved. So then I'm trying to think who was going to do the minutes for the last for our last meeting. Was that
I was,
Bernie?
and
You?
I failed.
Okay.
I failed to do them, so I owe them.
Okay, that's fine. So Bernie will do minutes for the last meeting. And for this meeting, I don't know. You can? All right. Thank you. So then, I think other than that, do we still not have anybody who wants to make a public comment? Doesn't look like we do.
No, it's just the 4 of us.
Just the 4 of us. Okay. So maybe I could, I recently sent you the updated spreadsheet, but I can share it and walk you through it. And then there's an additional list that in the same vein as the Word document that Ken had put the categories on and that I had sort of boiled down from the spreadsheet. So we can look at where that's at. It's in rough form at this point, but it can get better. Let's see. Why don't I pull up the spreadsheet? And I think you have it in your, if you want to pull it up on your own screens, but I'll share this.
Yeah, I've got it here.
So there's a bunch of tabs across the bottom. There's web form and public comments. That's basically what we looked at last time. Then there's the survey, and there are 3 different tabs because there are different formats. So there's the school and library, school committee and library trustees. And that one there are, it looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 submissions in that one. And this one, there are several long ones, so they just sort of continue down, but that's the same person. And the categories they asked were, the questions they asked them included challenges. How effectively does this the committee you serve on relate to the town council? Okay. But basically the meat of it is, what are their suggestions in the all topics section, and what are their additional comments? But there's some in terms of challenges. There were also this challenges comment has some things in it as far as 2-year terms lead to high term, and so on. So school budget process, this person lays out the problems with the process and then goes into some detail about Article 5 budget process over here in the suggestions section. So that's the school committee. The staff, we actually had quite a few responses. I think you saw that last time. It hasn't really changed. And you can look at that at your leisure. But the town council, we have the same 4 people, 2 counselors at large currently, and 2 former counselors, one of whom has suggestions and the other one has a critique of the process, but no suggestions. But again, some of these are fairly long responses, so it's figuring out how to boil them down to decision points is a little tricky. And then the listening sessions, we have notes from the first one and the second, from all the ones at the Bang Center. They're sort of different formats, but there's some of them have names, some of them are anonymous, but I think there's, and I haven't gone through this one yet to put it into the word list, but this is sort of as complete as we can get at this point. Hopefully we'll get the transcript from the Zoom meeting boiled down to notes as well, and I think that's the plan. Is they're going to do that.
Okay.
So that's that one, and then I wanted to share this other one, which is it's sort of an addendum to the suggestions for improvement by article and category that we talked about last time. Actually, I'll show you. I'll pull that one up. Actually, I think I just closed it. So let me see it. Recent. Yeah. So this is the one that I showed you last time, and then Ken did the work to add to group the suggestions into categories. So in Article 1, we've got public input, we've got, we still have the preamble there, but there's the underlined are the sort of categories.
Mhm.
And, in some cases, the terminology, that might be the easiest stuff for us to work on because it's more, it's sort of wordsmithing the charter to make it more effective. But then you get into the bigger categories, terms of,
Some of that terminology was also, it felt like it wasn't just like, what does this mean? More like, can we discuss what this means? Like it was more of it. Some of them suggested deeper dives and like they could explode into something much bigger and longer, but I do agree, some of them are just like, what do you mean by this? And then,
Mhm.
So yeah, if you want to, I can just sort of scroll through, but if you want to talk, Ken, about how you approached it or what you saw when you did it.
yeah, I try to find those common themes, and I think some of your ordering, Andy, had brought them together anyways. Across articles, which I think we've brought up before, across articles there are similar comments. Who knows if that's the same person hammering the same point across all articles? Or there's just there's a lot of interest in staggering council terms, and they're going to put them in under any of these articles, or mayor form of government or whatever, what have you. One of these frequent flyer kind of comments.
Sure.
And then some were just really, really hard to categorize. And I think once I put miscellaneous, and I thought that was a cop out as a subtopic, because I should really be putting it under its own, a single bullet point or something. It's like some were just hard to put in. And then some things were jumbled together because one comment mentioned the ZBA and the planning committee, but some meant just the ZBA, and they were kind of, so not terribly clean.
Mhm.
But
it's helpful to get to this point, I think. And miscellaneous, I would be shocked if we didn't have a miscellaneous category, given the number of things that we have and the breadth of what people are talking about. So, it's not. I think it's starting. It's starting to look like, okay, there's some categories. It's still a monster list, and this is only what we had last time.
Well, I think one of the things we're going to have to do with our lists, all of them, is strike comments that are editorial.
Yeah.
There are multiple comments about transparency, but they're not defined as to what needs to be transparent. There's a bunch of stuff here, and look at what comments are made that relate to the structure and the operation of the council. So there, from time to time, I was reading through the public comments, and one person said we should have a mayor. The other person says, well, thank God we don't have a mayor. But suggestions like a mayor, suggestions like changing the size of the council, would suggest not having a mayor, would anything that would require a new charter commission should go off to the side.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, I think we could group those things. Like these are things that
and then
need
begin
a special act or need a new commission,
Right. The special act, there's I don't know how many requests there are for a recall provision in the charter, but that's a special act.
And I will just say that we considered a recall, and we said with 2-year terms, it doesn't make sense to have a recall. It's
But those,
by the time you get that ginned up, then you've got another coming anyway. So
that's another level.
Yeah.
The first level is what are things that we can act on.
Yeah.
The idea that the town should collaborate with other towns is not something that goes in the charter.
Yeah.
Something we can do. So that goes out. Something that we're because people want to engage in what might, want to entertain the prospect of another charter commission, and those suggestions should go into, well, this would require another charter commission. But other things that like term length, that comes up repeatedly. Some people, I haven't seen one comment yet where people say, I really like the idea of running for 2 years. I personally don't like it either, but there were some very practical reasons why the terms were set at 2 years. So, we identify that public comment about 2-year terms.
Yeah.
And then the committee as a whole has to have a discussion as to whether we're even going to go forward with it if we feel that it's not practical, feasible, and desirable. Then it goes in the list. Well, people mentioned 2-year terms, but we said it's we determined it's not practical, feasible, desirable based on the actions the original Charter Commission took, or the logic behind it. There's the changing the lame duck period. I think that's probably something that could happen quickly if it makes sense. But before we endorse that notion, the lame duck period is also tied in with preparation of the budget.
Right.
And when the budget lands in front of the council. So we need to have a conversation with our finance people as to what the implications are of changing that. And, compressing the lame duck period might be a great idea, but if it means damaging the budget process or jamming the budget process into a narrower time span, that's, that might not be something that we mention, but not recommend. So,
so let me just share this additional the addendum now to what we just looked at, and that's and this is 5 pages, and it's there's a lot of text in here that could be boiled out probably, but so these are from the school committee and the library trustees, and
from the spreadsheet, Andy.
Yeah, from the spreadsheet.
Okay.
So this would potentially be integrated with what we just looked at, and we would. I mean, elections every 3 years, elections every 4 years. That's probably already in there. So all we need to do is sort of look at term limits is already in there. Voter recall provisions already in there. So a lot of this will be looking through, but there's some details on, how the budget process could be changed, and that may or may not. But some of it actually seems, thoughtful. I mean, I don't even want to characterize it. I think it was thoughtful, but I don't know what how to compare what these suggestions are to other suggestions or the current process. So we'd have to really have a finance. I think the Article 5 finance discussion, as Bernie was saying, we're going to have some finance people advising us on that probably. But anyway, this is the section from the committees, the school committee and the library trustees. And I separated out, and more so in the staff and employees, things like improve town council meeting efficiency. That's just not something that we can put in the charter. And there's a fair amount of like procedural stuff about how the town operates from the staff folks, who they may be good ideas, but they're more things that the administration would need to work on rather than the charter would specify. So here's the staff employees. The up front, there's stuff that I think is relevant to other types of things that we've seen that are focused on the charter. And then you get to there's a space here, and then you get to improve communication among departments, conduct a staffing audit, adopt more well-defined parliamentary procedures to improve behavior in public meetings, assign all building facilities related responsibilities to the facilities department. These are decisions that are not at the charter level. They're suggestions from staff that it would be really interesting probably if the town manager could look at these. I don't know if that's something we want to do, but a lot of these things are more operational among, there are people who are working and talking about what would make their jobs better, but they're not necessarily charter related, I don't think, you know. Ensure IT has a clear role in strategic planning and decision making.
Nope.
It's not something we're going to put in the charter. So I think a lot of this stuff is more
Yeah.
you know, it doesn't rise to the level of the charter. It's thoughtful stuff, but it's not necessarily charter ready. And then the counselors, this is a bunch of wordy stuff that I've not boiled down, and you know, we'll have to figure out how to boil it down. Some of it is actually people saying things are working well now. You know, and then don't change some things, and then there's suggestions for changing some things. So again, I think it'll be you know, we'll need to figure out how to put these into some sort of shorthand and put them in, and whether they're covered already in our list or whether they need to go in the articles. And then the listening sessions I haven't summarized. So this is a pretty intermediate document, but it's a partner to the document that, you know, Ken and I worked on previously.
Andy, when you talk about boiling them down, I get it. I get the boiling down part. Will the raw comments still be a part of our report as an addendum? I mean, I really want to protect. I don't know if that's the right word. I want to preserve the raw comments.
I think that's what the spreadsheet will do. The spreadsheet is the raw comments.
Yeah, and that doesn't necessarily have to be part of the report, but it can be archived where people can see it, use it, search it.
Yeah, we could link to it, or it could be an append. It could be, the whole thing could be digital. So it might be like, here's our chart of things we suggest. Here's, you know, how our process, and here's the full list of everything we heard from everybody. And that's the spreadsheet at this point. You know, it's whatever we want to do with it. We could try to clean that up and turn it into more of a, the word list has been somewhat boiled down. You know, I was originally trying to save some of the flavor of those, you know, some of those comments, but I think ultimately it's, you know, bullet point, you know, decision question. It's like, do we want to you know, what do we want to do about election timing? What do we want to do about term limits? What do we want to do about recall? And so it's not going to have the flavor of the comments set at that point when we're making decisions, I don't think. But we can always go back and look at what people, you know, all of the comments that people submitted to see what they were talking about if there's confusion. But that would be in the spreadsheet.
It may not be the right time to talk about this. Maybe it's further downstream, but I guess in my first iteration of what this report would look like, because this is what it felt like from the reports that I looked at, was that what I liked, at least I'll say, is that when it went like Article 1, Article 2, Article 3, all comments, whether they came from the public, city council, former staff, or whatever it is, all came under that Article 1. But I do see the need. I do see it an alternative to say, here are all the web form comments, Article 1 through blah, blah, blah. Here are the electeds and former electeds, Article 1 through blah, blah, blah. And then here are the school committee library trustees, like having separate ways, knowing in the context that this is who it is that's talking. It's Joe Blow from the street, or it's the current elected person from the library trustees, or whatever. I mean, again, I don't know if this is the time to go over those things, but I'd like to keep them separate for the time being, so we don't throw. In some ways, the comment from Joe Blow on the street and an elected person should be totally equal. But I think having the context of knowing where they're coming from is really important to keep in mind. Again,
although the web point, you know, some of the web comments were people who were former elected people, you know, or
Manny Joe, I think, submitted something too. Yeah.
So you know, I want to keep a good record, you know, an
I-
accurate
I'm-
record of everything that came in. I just don't know how much we need to organize it once we've, you know,
I would like to preserve all this stuff, but I agree, Andy, that I don't think we need to organize it. I don't think we need to publish it as part of a formal report. It has to be, it should be made available to people who want to look at it, want to go through with it. Because I'm looking at the comments right now on the spreadsheet. I've clicked through. I haven't read them as thoroughly as I should, because there's a lot of stuff here. And
Yeah.
but I'm guessing that 2/3 of this would just be pushed aside. That there's
I
no,
mean, that is not
because they're
it's our-
editorialized.
legal or whatever.
Yeah, and some of them bear, some of them really need to bear acknowledgement, because if there's a question about the budget process, some of that's embedded in general laws.
Mhm.
And so we need to be able to say to people that this exists because this is the Mass General Law.
Right.
And then the subtext of that is an individual town of with 7,000 voters asking the legislature to give it permission to not follow the Mass General laws has a slim to none chance of.
Right. Yeah.
And that's that's the kind of thing that we just need to say. And it was interesting to read the report from the Participatory Budgeting Committee. And they just basically said to the council, don't do participatory budgeting. It's not practical and feasible at this point in time.
Really?
Yeah. That's the conclusion of their report was a series of slides, and the last slide was, we can't do it right now because it's not practical. We don't have the money. So that, I mean, that's a kind of a reasonable approach I think we want to be able to take with this. Is, yeah, you'd like to do this, but it's the Mass General laws we're going to run against, and it's not worth our time to try and change it.
I think it's so we want to respect everything that's come in and retain everything that's come in, but our task now is to move toward decision making on what we want to present to the council as far as what we heard and what we recommend. And so I can sort of visualize, like, okay, term limits, yes or no, change the definition of a public forum so that it's not so unwieldy. Yes, that would be fairly easy. Request that the town council and the manager come to the school committee budget forum. Does that need to go in there or not? Maybe, I don't know. But I think there's certain things that are like, I just to take Mandy Jo Haneke's list, for example, those are very specific wording things in many cases that are based on experience with the charter and with the charter commission and with being a counselor. And it's like, you know what, if we tweak this description, it would make things work better. And so some of those things, I almost feel like we could have a consent calendar type of things of like, here are a bunch of things that just seem like housekeeping that almost, that might or might, that anything you want to take off this list as being controversial, great, we can talk about it separately. But these are some things that are like pretty nuts and boltsy, based on experience, it seems like these things would help. And then, then you get to the things like, all right, do you want to have term limits? Do you want to have, do you want to change the budget process? Do you want to deal with the lame duck period? And then you get to the things like, okay, we want to have 3-year terms and staggered terms that we can't really do without a special act, or then have a mayor, which is basically a commission. So, I just, I'm looking at I think by our September 6th meeting, we need to have a decision document that's going to be fairly easy or let's at least organized in a way that we can get through it.
So summarizing, so maybe I'm sure we can tweak the subheaders, but if needed, but summarizing those points. Sorry, there's more of a question, Andy, to understand what you're talking about. You want to summarize the points under a particular article and maybe under a subheader, we're not submitting what we have right now, this 9-page document or 11 pages or whatever it is. We're going to condense it down, paraphrase these things into
group like comments, as decision points, right? Some people said term limits of 3 terms. Some people said 2 terms. Some people said 4, whatever, some people said for the officers as well as for, the counselors, but maybe there's a term limits button. Do we think we should push for term limits or not?
Sure. In some of those term limits can be in the rules and procedures of the council can
Like
be changed.
the officers of the council.
The length of terms of officers of the council, all that aren't specified. How many times you can be chair of the council isn't specified in the charter. It's in the rules. How many times you can speak at a meeting is not in the charter. It's in the rules. How many, the ability to enter into debate with another, which was one of my favorite ones that got ignored, that I proposed with the ability to enter into debate with another member of the council is not in the charter, but it could be in the rules. Those are things that the council can consider and simply change. Then we get into the more difficult stuff that might require special legislation, might require a change in the wording of the charter, but are essentially neutral. Change of definition, a simple change of process, something like that. And then we get into the harder stuff, which is term limits, as an example.
Yeah.
I mean, some people like the 2-year terms, some people want 3-year terms, some people want 4-year terms. That would require any change in the term limits would require special legislation.
Yeah.
And then we have some practical considerations that we have to outline. You guys, when you came up with the charter, you were bumping up against reality.
Yeah.
And the reality was you couldn't easily get 3-year or 4-year terms.
Yeah, we wanted to get away from the spring elections. We thought that there would be better turnout in the fall. So that meant that we had to do 2 years or 4 years. But if we asked for a special act to go back to the spring, we could do 3-year terms, and we could stagger election of the members of the council and the school committee and not be electing everybody at the same time. Or if we went to 4-year terms, we could do that. But 2-year terms, we end up electing everybody all the time, everywhere all at once.
If you do 4-year terms, then it becomes reasonable to have a recall petition.
Right. Yeah.
Those are the kinds of trades that you end up making.
Yeah.
If you want to tank voter participation, go back to spring elections.
If you what?
If you want to really tank voter participation, then go back to spring elections.
Yeah.
So if encouraging people to interact and take part in the town government, moving to spring elections is heading in the wrong direction. And you can demonstrate that. There's research.
But if you had 4-year terms, do you think you'd get enough people running?
Yeah, that's another question.
So maybe this is
but those are the kinds of questions that I think in our report, we should be raising, because this is going to go to the council. And ultimately it's the council that's going to decide what they do with this report. So we can say, councilors, people, and we can see some logic in changing the terms. Here's the advantage of 3-year terms. Here's the advantage of 4-year term. Here's the advantage of keeping a 2-year term. It's your decision.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on that note, Bernie, I mean, it feels like we're trying to do the work of the council. It's their problem, right? It's their,
Right.
this is their discussion, not ours.
Yep,
We
yep.
don't need to make, I don't think we need to make any of that, do any of that work for them.
Okay.
Sorry, to put it in a really like fine way, it's like we're collating and we're trying to organize this, all this
Mhm.
public. That's their problem. That
But they're looking for recommendations,
I'm-
not just a list of possible things to do.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, that's, we have to go back to the charge and see how we honor that charge. And I agree with you, Ken. I would rather just not have to get into some of the debating some of this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it is sort of duplicative, but I think they would want to know that we sort of wrestled with it a little bit,
Mhm.
or at least laid out what the parameters are of the.
Yeah, if we say, the term limits are an issue here, are with people, here's what we see,
You mean
based on
the length of the term?
the length of the term.
Yeah.
Term limits are another issue. Does it make sense to say to somebody, if we don't have a lot of candidates, does it really make sense to say, you can't serve a long time? But there's going to be some upside and downside to this. And again, it's, Ken's perfectly correct. It's their problem. They're going to take this and they're going to have to wrestle with it. And I think we need to go back to the charge of the committee charge and see how much of input we have to have and how much direction we have to provide.
Yeah, I mean, we did respond to the charge by saying we reserve the right to go beyond the charge and list things that aren't necessarily just things that the council can do itself.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I really don't want to end up giving them like a 20-page list of things that they need to think about and debate because they won't have time.
Yeah, no, there's a totally a line here it's very blurry. I don't want to just regurgitate and then summarize and say, here you go, have fun. It's not been my sense that we have that kind of control to say this is what you should do. And maybe I'm stepping over what you guys are talking. Maybe you're not suggesting that.
No, I mean, I think it's within the charge to say that the committee recommends this. The committee recommends that you reduce the lame duck period. And they don't have to accept that recommendation.
Right.
I think what we have to do is be careful that whenever we make a recommendation, that it's framed in a neutral tone. And we avoid any really polarizing arguments. That would be my preference. It's probably unusual coming from me. I don't want to argue about this. But there's just a lot of stuff here. And like I said, I'm looking at it and
yeah, it says recommend preliminary report with recommended changes to the charter. Also showing a comparison of proposed changes to the present language. And then final report with recommended changes to the charter, including both a comparison of all recommended changes to the present language and the reasons for the recommendations. So if we just say, here's a bunch of stuff that we heard, I don't think that we're being responsive to the charge. But I mean, how many things are we going to even be able to fully digest to decide whether we can recommend them or not? I mean, you would think that over the 2-year process that we've had, or we probably could be digesting these, but we're doing what we can at this point. So I think our next step, I'm thinking that our next step is to take this additional suggestions for charter changes and try to meld it with the first one that's categorized already. And then we need to sort of really start working on a decision document that's like, what's the concept? Term length, term limits, voter recall, budget process, which is a big one, but you know, so that we can get to the point where we can all, as a group, as the full committee, can be figuring it, you know, looking at what the sort of conceptual, what the concepts are that we're talking about, either recommending or not.
Mhm.
So the concepts to you, Andy, are a higher level than the subtopics. Sorry, I'm being really like anal about this because I'm trying to understand what this decision document will
I think
be.
almost the categories that you provided are sort of the level that we would want to get to.
Mhm.
You know, that's sort of the level where we're talking, although some of them are just grouping, you know, you're just saying, you know, I mean, not just the miscellaneous, but you're saying, you know, a bunch of things about, let me just pull it up. Like, you know, petition signatures, or the voter veto provision, or election timing, redistricting, you know, finance committee. I think actually, you know, some of those, you know, then maybe underneath those, there might be like, here are the questions. Here's the parameters of the discussion around the finance committee. Do we want to do anything with this or not? You know?
Yeah, and there's you know, there's some other, the notion of having been a citizen representative on the
I'm sorry?
having been a citizen representative on the finance committee for a while.
Yeah.
You know, I don't feel compelled to have a vote, because I've been able to, I've been accepted as a member, and people have listened to what I have to say, and the other non-voting members. And so it might be a neat idea to have more citizens on committees. There's some practical limits there, because you've got to go out and recruit them, but giving them a vote might cause a real problem, because you're then taking an unelected official and giving them a slice of authority that belongs to the elected officials.
Right.
And so, you know, the having volunteers on the committee is a nice compromise, because you can add in a couple of citizens, and they can, you know, they can be part of the committee and they can have a voice.
Yeah.
But you avoid that problem of what happens when you have an unelected position, an unelected person voting.
Right.
So,
but that would be within the category of, you know, finance committee. One of the major suggestions is to have them be voting members, or to have the finance committee be elected, or whatever. But that would change. That would be a change that would be beyond, you know, that would change elections. So I think that would be beyond our scope.
Oh, there's
Athena.
Hi, thanks. I was just listening to your conversation about adding residents to other council committees, and one of the things, this has come up at the council before, and one of the things that kind of ended the conversation was that the appointment process for non-voting finance committee members is in the charter, and those members are appointed by the council, but the charter says that the president makes appointments to all other council committees. And so in order for the appointments for council committees, for residents to council committees to be made by the council, that language would need to be added to the charter. Or else the president would appoint those members, and I don't think people liked that.
So
well, the workaround to that would be to have a committee of committee like the appropriate committee who does the screening recommend to the council president that they pick from this group of people. I mean, that's a kludge, but it works around the notion that
Are you talking about we're talking about making appointments to CRC, COL, and TSO, right?
Yeah. So if you're making an appointment at TSO, then whatever committee is charged with identifying possible citizen members, then gives a recommendation to the council president, and the council president can then pick from that list. If she disagrees with everybody who's on the list, she can go and, pull from another batch of people. But, it's a workaround that you could do without having to amend the charter. It's
I don't know that we want to recommend it.
it's a clutch. I mean,
The
it's a
way
clutch.
so the resident oversight board makes recommendations to the town manager on appointments. And I think that the charge for the resident oversight board would need to be changed if it was making recommendations to the council president.
It wouldn't have to.
That's a little sticky.
I'm not expressing myself well. There could be a committee made up of counselors who identify people who can be put on these committees as non-voting members. Those persons identified could then be forwarded to the council president with the intent that the council president would then make a choice from that list. Not a requirement, but the intent. So that sort of circles around it by using a change in the council's rules and procedures to make a change without having to amend the charter. But like I said, that's a workaround. And
Yeah,
the honest thing would be is to.
I think I understand what you're saying, but I think that my recollection of the discussion at council and at GOL when they were looking at the rules and so on about this was that the folks didn't like that the president would wield that appointment power.
Yeah, and we also have the very practical consideration that it takes forever.
Yeah.
To find an appointment and to make an appointment.
All right.
Yeah, thank you. So I think it's just we gotta keep slogging through here until we can get to a level of, so we can get to a list of concepts that we can then vote, discuss and vote in or out. Right? I mean, there's just an awful lot of ideas here. And Bernie, I think you're right that some of them are just opinions, and but I mean, I can sort of see it that here's all the things that were suggested that seem to be in the ballpark of charter changes that could be done either by the council or with more heroic measures. And so we separate those out. So here's the ones that could be done by the council. And of those, we recommend these 10. And here's a list of the other ones that you can consider. We don't have a position on those. Or we say we actually agree that we don't think that's a good idea. I don't know. That's sort of for the full committee to decide, I think, in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is for the full, like you said, full committee. That does what you just said, Andy, was not like totally spot on, but it was similar to at least one or two of the reports that the other charter committee reports that I looked at, that it was along those lines. Certainly wasn't 10. I know that it was many more than that, but
yeah,
that sounds like
something per article.
Yeah, right. And that, like, logically to me, I keep on thinking about what would I want to read as a council member, or what I would want to read as a resident.
Yeah.
And that makes a logical sense to me of what you said, of getting all the comments under the various groups, comments underneath these subheaders, and then having, I think maintaining those subheaders, but also have maybe larger, the articles themselves, I think, are possibly the bigger higher level organization. And we bring that to the council and say, these are what we've found, and we need to make decisions about whether we like them or not. That I gulp when I say that, because that just feels like a lot of time with this,
Yeah.
with
Mhm.
larger
The amount of
committee.
time that we could spend talking about each one could be, that's why I'm like, can we identify some that are basically technical and easy? Maybe nothing's technical and easy, but and then some of the bigger concepts that, you know, we may have to like limit our time to discuss. All right, you know, how many of these could, maybe we do a show of hands, you know, at the outset on each one, and if it's not close, then we don't even bother. We just move on, you know, and say that's the decision of the group. I don't know, but that's sort of a process that we need to talk about with the full group. But giving them a list that sort of clarifies the decisions that we're trying to make in the way we've discussed it here, you know, by article, I think, and probably under many of the subheaders that you created. I think that's the next job. It's a daunting prospect to keep winnowing this down.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, I'm willing to bring these other suggestions underneath those subheaders of the document that we, you know, the document that I helped organize
Yeah,
to make kind of the master doc. Because I'm already familiar with the subgroups at this point.
yeah.
And I have a funny comment I'll make later, because there's a subset of the subset that was like, it was about us, basically. It was about the charter
Yeah,
committee,
yeah.
charter review process. I don't know what to do with those. Building the ship as we're sailing it. Okay, so like lay off and give us a chance to screw up. All right, just
Yeah.
don't jump on us just yet. You'll have time to do in the next 9 years to do that. Anyways, I can do that, and I want to be able to have somebody to look at it with me, you know, after I make that attempt.
Yeah, I mean, I having pulled it together, I'd be happy to look at it with you.
Okay. And I don't know if AI is where you would like summarize these things into just sort of statements as opposed to a bunch of bullet points. I don't know.
I used it a little bit on for the staff comments. It was I just put the spreadsheet page in and said, you know, give me a bulleted summary of suggestions for improvement. And they did a pretty good job. It did a pretty good job. And then I would go back and look, and I was like, okay, everything's pretty much represented except for these couple of things. But then I did it with the town council ones, and it was terrible. I mean, it was just like, just sort of general statements about, you know, the budget process needs to be looked at or whatever. And so it just wasn't, I think it was taking quite a while. So I was like, maybe the format of the spreadsheet, and it wasn't necessarily looking under all the columns. I think you know, once I said, give me a bulleted list of suggestions for improvement, it was mostly just going to that one or two columns at the end that were like, you know, do you have specific suggestions? Maybe if you take these lists and say boil them down to concepts and see what happens, that might be interesting.
You know, my limited experience with ChatGPT, Perplexity, which I like, and Gemini, which I'm not fond of, is it's really good if you ask it to sort.
Yeah.
You know, find things that are similar.
Yeah.
It will do a really good job of that, and it will do it very quickly.
Yeah.
And you can also use it to do a keyword search pretty effectively. You know, find me every reference to this. But if you begin to give it vaguer concepts, we need to improve the budget process, it'll fail. Or it'll give you, it'll hallucinate, or it'll give you vague responses. So the more concrete you can be with it, the better it works.
So if we had a list that we went through and basically took the categories that we've got now and took the second document that I showed you and tried to put whatever is non-duplicative in there. And then we ran it through, or do you think we could, yeah, how does that? I'm just trying to think how we could use it in a sophisticated enough way to actually get this is because after a while I was just going and looking at the spreadsheet and trying to like mentally say, okay, what's the concept here? Or I just put the whole language in and then it's like, okay, now it's too long. So it's a qualitative analysis task, and it's just a matter of what's going to do it well.
Yeah, and just for the record, I did reach out to my qualitative analysis person that I work with, and she's on vacation, so I don't have any progress as far as that goes.
Yeah.
She'll be back. She'll be back next week.
I think it's some of it is just blocking and tackling and saying, all right, this goes in this category, this goes in that category, and now how can we boil it down to fewer words?
Yeah, and I'm happy to. I actually use Gemini, Bernie, and I'm not that wild about it. I've not used ChatGPT much, but I'm happy to try to use it to sort or to group similar comments. I would love to have a better experience.
I'm going to break down and actually buy a subscription to one or the other.
Do what?
I'm actually going to buy a subscription to Perplexity or ChatGPT. I'm not sure which one yet, because I've been using the freebies, and I end up getting the software to respond back with a list of things I need to do or look at to refine what I'm asking about.
Yeah.
So.
The first step that I think I feel confident in doing is trying to group them together. Sorry, one question before I even go into that is the document that I think the last one that you shared on email that we looked at today was the school committee and library trustees. I think we're taking all of the comments, the former council members, those comments, and also folding them in, like everything we're folding in. Yeah. So I'm happy. I feel confident that I can group them together by similarity, all these things together, drop them under these subheaders, full length, and then maybe attack them in terms of trying to summarize them and boil them down. I don't think it's going to be terribly. I don't think it'll be terribly pretty. It'll be probably pretty clumsy.
Yeah, but I think that's the next step. I don't have the public listening sessions things in that document yet, so maybe that'll be a third document that maybe I'll make that a third document rather than adding it to this one if you're going to be using this one.
Well, how many listening sessions are you missing?
How many what?
How many listening sessions are you missing? Because the spreadsheet has.
I have 3. Sessions. I have 3 out of 4.
3 out of 4. Okay.
There's only one that's missing.
Okay, I'm willing to bet that there's not going to be a heck of a lot of difference between the first 3, but.
So I can keep putting it into whatever's in the. Yeah. I think I'm going to create a separate document for the listening session ones, just so that we don't get confused. And so you can work with this document. That's the additional suggestions. And then I'll do even more suggestions from the listening sessions. And that'll be when I get to that, then we can add that as well. Okay. But if you don't mind taking a cut at it, Ken, and trying to take this additional suggestions document, and I will say that, there's a gap in the staff one. I think I showed you, but there's a line space. I'll share it again. This is the from staff and employees. The ones at the top are the ones that I think are relevant. I think then there's this line space, and then there's a bunch of things that I think are mostly, at the level of the town administration and not the charter, So just so you know, I wouldn't even bother with those. So it would just be the ones at the top, or I could pull them out if you want, but they're in there for now. But if you want to take a look at that and see what you can hammer them into, and then if you want, we could get together and go over it or whatever you want, you know.
But just the two of us?
Sure. I mean, next week sometime.
Yeah, if we're not gonna try to meet again as a subcommittee, so I think you said the next full committee meeting is the 6th, which is still a ways off. No, that's
no. The 6th is our retreat, or whatever we're calling it, our working session. I think we have a meeting next week,
We do.
next Thursday.
okay. Sorry, I missed the last committee meeting. I haven't seen the minutes yet.
Oh yeah.
And I would like to, if, you know, if there's some way that a piece of this could get handed off to myself or Marcus to make things work
Yeah.
better, I have no
Yeah.
problem with you guys interacting with one another.
I would love to hand off.
You know, I would like to, or have us go, you know, have us go back through. It's just a question of fairness, who all gets to do the work.
Yeah. Well, maybe then, you know, maybe I've done what I can on this additional suggestions piece. And then Ken, if you want to take a shot at it and then talk to Bernie about it, maybe Bernie can run it through some AI or something, or, you know, or you can think about what categories might be. I mean, I'm happy to think about it however you want, or, you know, but I think once we get the two documents put into one, then we can start thinking about, like, how do we boil it down?
Okay, let me ask you this, Andy. You must have boiled it down from the web form comments into you boiled, I mean, those are pretty to the point.
Some of them are boiled, yeah. It's sort of like what Meg and I did early on when we had just the few early comments, but it was like, here's boiling each one down, boiling them down to what they're actually suggesting, you know, the concept of what they're suggesting. So yeah, it's somewhat boiled down. I didn't do as good a job of that with some of the ones on this new list. There's some long paragraphs that are sort of like, here's the problem, you know, maybe that's just sort of context that doesn't need to be in this list, but yeah, I mean, ultimately they're going to need to be, that we're not going to have the original text from the suggestions. We're going to have boiled down comments or boiled down concepts.
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to fold them in, try to summarize them as what, at the same as part of that process.
Yeah.
Summarize them and then share them with Bernie. Maybe Bernie and I can meet, or I can just send them to Bernie, depending on how clumsy it is for Bernie to try to interpret.
That'd be great.
Do we have another meeting scheduled? We don't have another meeting scheduled for the subcommittee.
No, we could look at it.
Oh, sorry, quickly. Sorry, I'm jumping around. Can you tell me what I need to know about September 6th, about the working session?
Well, basically that was the idea, that we've got a lot of stuff and we need to have a time, an extended time where we can go through a long list of things and vote them up or down, basically. So the goal is to get together and to start and to have from 10 to 4, have time to be doing some decision making. So our goal would be to have something that would facilitate decision making by that point.
Okay. Okay.
So if you guys can do the merging of those two documents and then some sort of clustering, or however you want to, you know, boil it down.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we want to meet before we're meeting as a group on the 21st, presumably 6 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
I need to put that in my calendar. Would it make any sense for us to try to meet on Tuesday or Wednesday? I don't. You're going to need time to wrestle this. I don't know that. I mean,
I'm not sure if I can make the larger charter commission meeting, so
yeah.
Tuesday would be best for me because Wednesday is kind of tough too.
Will you
Yeah.
have time to merge the things and do the work on this on it by then?
Yeah.
Will we
I'm
have something to talk about by then?
I'm committing to that, yeah.
Okay. So
Whether
we
I
meet
get it to
Tues-
Bernie in time for him to review, I can't commit to.
Well, it's gonna sound like a boast, but I read fairly fast. And I can get through the doc. Whatever you get me, I will make the effort to go through it and mark it up and have some comments if I can't do anything more with it.
Okay.
Now, so we're talking about the 26th,
No, well, I think we're looking at the 19th of this,
The 19th.
19th.
and I think we didn't. That would have been our normal meeting time, but we didn't meet on the 19th because I think Marcus is on vacation then, or Bernie, are you
I
around?
was supposed to be away. I'm not away.
Are you not?
I'm,
Okay.
I'm not driving the bus, the vacation bus, so I'm just.
So do we want to try to meet on Tuesday the 19th, and we'll see if Marcus can join us? It's like 4:30 or 5, whatever works.
I mean, early that afternoon is better for me. Just in
Yeah,
terms of the way
I'm retired, but I don't think Ken is, so I don't know.
yeah, just the way that just the way things work around the house. That's all. It's nothing cosmic. I have a finance committee meeting on the 19th from 2 to 4
On the 19th?
on the 19th. So
Oh,
I'm
we
still on
can't
the
meet before 4.
I'm
Yeah.
still on the finance committee.
Yeah.
This will be historic because Joe Janes and I were on the finance committee when it was we were reporting to town meeting. And so, a decade or so later, we end up in the finance committee again.
Great.
Only this go around on the finance committee has been far and away less abusive than the previous one. So anytime after 4, because finance committee runs meetings fairly tightly.
Ken,
And-
what would work for you? And then maybe we can ask Athena if that's available.
4:30 or as early as 4:30 works for me. 5 o'clock works as well.
Do we want to try 4:30?
Yeah.
Sure.
Athena, are you there?
Yep, that works. Finance Committee, Bernie, just so you know, should be fairly brief. I think you just have one financial order to review.
Okay.
Ken, is earlier than 4:30 work for you, or is it best to do 4:30?
It doesn't have to be 4:30. I just thought maybe Bernie could use a bathroom break or something.
Well, why don't we say 4:30, because that'll give Bernie more time to read and play with it.
Okay.
If that's okay with everybody.
Yeah, that's fine.
So then,
Andy, just so you know, the deadline to post that meeting is 4:30 tomorrow, so I'll need your agenda for Tuesday
okay,
right away.
it's going to be a fairly similar agenda it's basically continuing our discussion of feedback and figuring out how to present it to the committee and the public, but I will create a new one for you and send it to you.
The agenda should be suitably vague.
Just like our process. Okay, so 4:30 Tuesday, August 19th. And the goal will be at that point to see what we've been able to boil it down, these two lists down to, and then hopefully have something to present to the committee for the Thursday meeting.
Yeah.
And Ken, you said you're not going to be at that meeting?
No, I'll be at a cell phone range on vacation.
Are you going to be biking again?
No camping in Vermont.
Wow, awesome.
Not nearly as fun as
It is summer and vacations are good. So
Yes.
yeah, that's great.
last pass before school starts for kids. So
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, the last week of August has gotten dragged into the school year.
I know, right? It's a very
Lately,
early
so-
Labor Day this year.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I'm don't have to worry about. I only have to worry about occasional transportation for school kids.
so do we have enough to go on as far as moving forward? Do we want to massage this anymore at this point?
I think you're almost done.
I don't think so.
Okay, I will let Marcus know that we're meeting on Tuesday. I don't know if he can meet then or not, but I think it's good to just keep refining this list so that we actually have something that we can work with on the 6th for decision making.
Okay.
Thank you for stepping up, both of you. I was starting to feel like I was glazing over, so I think it's good to have a tag team on this. So
No, totally.
yeah.
Mhm.
It's
All right.
glaze-worthy. Yeah, no, I get it. This is where the rubber meets the road, I guess.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, this kind of stuff.
All right. Well, thank you. I think that's pretty much it then for our agenda for today.
Okay.
I will, Athena, I'll send you a new one to post,
Thank you.
and I'll see you guys next week, Tuesday, 4:30.
Okay.
All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. See you soon.
Aye. And
Aye.
thanks, everybody.
Good weekend.
Thanks, guys.